Jerry Jeudy is not a wide receiver one. He's not even a wide receiver.
Things are getting real interesting in Cleveland, Ohio right now. Jobs are on the line. Make no mistake about it. It's not just a quarterback competition going on. It's a wide receiver battle happening amongst other things.
You're looking around, you're like, huh? Well, if Jerry Jeudy don't want to catch the rock, we're not about to invest no reps in that neither. We got 2 receivers in the first round. And we already got Isaiah Bond that was playing last year. You see what we cooking? They done already told you they like Brailsford. They done already put Fano in the first unit.
I can name 30 wide receivers better than Jerry Jeudy.
I think I can name 55 receivers.
I can name 75.
I can name 93 wide receivers better than Jerry Jeudy.
The conversation around Cleveland has been dominated by quarterbacks for months, but what if people have been looking in the wrong direction the entire time? What if the biggest challenge facing Shedeur Sanders is not learning the playbook, adjusting to NFL speed, or competing against other quarterbacks? What if the real issue is whether the players around him are taking advantage of the opportunities he is creating? That question is starting to become impossible to ignore as Brown's OTAs continue to unfold. One thing that consistently stands out about Shedeur Sanders is how confident he looks when he steps onto the field. He does not play like someone who is overwhelmed by the moment. He does not look rattled by the expectations. Instead, he looks like a quarterback determined to prove that he belongs. Every practice becomes another opportunity to show coaches, teammates, and fans that he can lead an NFL offense. That confidence is exactly why so many people are paying attention to every throw he makes. But quarterback play is only one part of the equation. A perfectly placed football means nothing if the receiver fails to finish the play. A quarterback can make the correct read, deliver the ball on time, and put it exactly where it needs to be. But the job is not complete until the catch is secured. That is where the spotlight has quietly started shifting toward Jerry Jeudy. Coming into this season, Jeudy was expected to be one of the leaders of Cleveland's receiving corps. As a veteran player with experience and proven talent, he was supposed to be one of the safest options on the roster. The expectation was simple. When the football comes his way, he makes the play. When the offense needs a spark, he helps provide it.
If I can get Shedeur Sanders and I can potentially find a franchise quarterback in the 5th round, are you crazy? Are you serious? I already got my young tight end in Harold Fanning Jr. who broke records last year. Quinshon Judkins is a guy we moved on from Nick Chubb because we drafted Quinshon Judkins, right? Now you're looking around, you're like, huh? Well, if Jerry Jeudy don't want to catch the rock, we're not about to invest no reps in that neither. We got 2 receivers in the first round. And we already got Isaiah Bond that was playing last year. You see what we cooking? They done already told you they like Brailsford. They done already put Fano in the first unit. You don't see it? See, the timeline switched up. Dabo said, I got to get on the first thing smoking in Cleveland. My boy out here, my Deshaun, my 4 out here, boy, I got to get over here and stand up for my man. Because right now, it looks like they're getting real useful out here. And that's the way it's supposed to work. That's the way it's supposed to be. I said it today. I'm going to expound on that in the next couple of weeks. But we ain't going to give you too much now.
When a young quarterback needs support, he becomes a reliable target. That is the role veteran receivers are expected to fill. The problem is that expectations can quickly turn into pressure. Every missed opportunity suddenly gets magnified when younger players are waiting for their chance. Every incomplete pass creates questions. Every play that could have been made becomes a talking point. Fair or not, that is how competition works in the NFL. Nobody cares what happened last year when jobs are being evaluated today. For Shedeur Sanders, this situation creates an interesting challenge. Young quarterbacks thrive when they trust their receivers. Trust allows them to throw with confidence. Trust allows them to anticipate routes before they develop. Trust allows offenses to play faster and more aggressively. Without that trust, hesitation starts to creep into the game. Even a fraction of a second can make a huge difference at the NFL level. That is why receiver performance matters so much right now. Shedeur is trying to establish himself. He is trying to prove that he deserves more opportunities. He is trying to show that he can become a major part of Cleveland's future. To do that, he needs receivers who consistently help turn good plays into great plays. He needs players who make life easier for their quarterback rather than harder. What makes this situation even more interesting is the amount of competition developing throughout the roster. There are younger players arriving with something to prove. They are hungry. They are motivated. They understand that every practice rep matters. They know nobody is going to hand them a roster spot simply because of their reputation. That mindset creates pressure for every veteran in the room, including Jerry Jeudy. The NFL is not built on past accomplishments. It is built on what players can do right now. Coaches do not care about old headlines when they evaluate practice film. They care about execution. They care about consistency. They care about results. If younger players start delivering more consistently, difficult decisions eventually have to be made. For now, nobody is suggesting that Jerry Jeudy has lost his place. That would be premature, but what cannot be ignored is the growing conversation surrounding Cleveland's receiver room. More eyes are paying attention. More people are asking questions. More fans are wondering whether the offense might look different than expected once the season arrives. And if Shedeur Sanders continues to perform while other players struggle to capitalize on his opportunities, the discussion surrounding Jerry Jeudy is only going to get louder. Because at some point, the focus stops being on potential and starts being about production.
Man, you guys, man, y'all might as well just turn the tape. Listen, Shedeur and Coach Prime ain't gonna do nothing where y'all feel like y'all gonna get y'all's money worth. It's a problem. You're not gonna get your money's worth at the Coach Prime story. There is no Coach Prime story, bro. Todd Monken came back to y'all and said, "What are you guys talking about? You think I got a problem talking to another grown man, another Hall of Famer, another coach that has the resume, the game of Coach Prime? What are you talking about? What are you doing? I just had his whole staff here. What are you talking about?" See, listen, you have to work on this, man. You're going to have to work on this because these cliche stories don't hit no more like that, bro. Who is scared to talk to another coach about football? And then what he does, he do y'all so he be getting y'all together. Y'all don't even be seeing it. Y'all made all them stories. Oh my goodness, Coach Prime, he's just his son, coach this, coach that, coach that. I'm like, bro, come on, man. What are you guys talking about? You know what he does? He said, "Hey, Dabo Swinney, you want to come up and hang out a little bit too?" Just to show y'all, God, y'all be off target. Now watch it. Here's how you know this happened for a reason. Here's how you know it happened on purpose. It happened on purpose because Dabo Swinney wasn't coming to Cleveland no other time. I don't even think Dabo Swinney went to Houston. Why would all of a sudden Dabo Swinney just pull up and go to the Browns facility?
In the NFL, that is when things get very interesting. For years, Jerry Jeudy has been viewed as one of the most naturally talented receivers in football. Nobody questions his athletic ability. Nobody questions his route running skills. When everything is working, he can make defenders look completely lost. The problem is that talent alone does not protect anyone from competition. In fact, sometimes talent creates even higher expectations. And right now, those expectations are starting to create real pressure in Cleveland. The Browns are entering a completely different phase than many people expected just a few months ago. There is fresh energy around the organization. There are young players arriving with confidence. There is growing excitement surrounding Shedeur Sanders and what he could potentially bring to the offense. Most importantly, there is a feeling that roster spots and roles may not be as secure as they once seemed. That is where things become interesting for Jerry Jeudy. When a team starts moving toward a younger core, veterans suddenly find themselves under a microscope. Every practice matters. Every rep matters. Every missed opportunity becomes something coaches notice. What may have been overlooked in previous seasons suddenly becomes a much bigger deal when younger players are pushing for those same opportunities. For Jeudy, the challenge is not simply competing against defenders anymore. He is competing against expectations. Fans expect him to be one of the leaders of the receiving group. Coaches expect him to provide stability. Teammates expect him to be dependable when the offense needs a play. When those expectations are met, nobody talks about them. But when they are not met, the conversation changes quickly. Meanwhile, Shedeur Sanders is creating a completely new dynamic inside the offense. Young quarterbacks often change the energy of a locker room because everyone understands they represent the future. Players naturally want to build chemistry with them. Receivers want targets. Coaches want production. Everyone wants to become part of whatever direction the organization is heading. That means every connection between Shedeur and a receiver gets noticed. Every successful play builds momentum. Every sign of chemistry creates discussion. Fans begin paying attention to which players are consistently making plays when the football comes their way. It becomes less about reputation and more about results. The difficult reality for veterans is that younger players do not care about resumes. They are not intimidated by previous accomplishments. They are not impressed by contracts or past headlines. They are focused on one thing only: taking advantage of every chance they get. That hunger can completely change the atmosphere of a position group. In Cleveland, that hunger is becoming harder to ignore. Younger receivers are showing up every day knowing that one big play can change how coaches view them. One strong week can move them up the depth chart. One impressive stretch can create opportunities that did not exist before. When that kind of competition develops, nobody can afford to coast. This is why the pressure surrounding Jerry Jeudy feels different now. It is not because he suddenly forgot how to play football. It is not because people are questioning his talent. It is because the margin for error appears to be shrinking. The Browns have more young talent entering the room. They have more players fighting for attention.
Was Dabo Swinney, where was he at when Trevor Lawrence was around? See, you guys made all them stories just to be proving a point. You don't even care about some of the stuff y'all be writing. Some of the stuff, that the outrage, and you know it ain't even a thing like that. Because I watched you on the internet and not one person said nothing about Dabo Swinney. Nobody said, oh my gosh, was this appropriate? Oh my gosh, Todd Monken doesn't need to deal. What are you talking about deal with? He's having football conversations with head coaches. I don't know. You guys keep forgetting. See, here's the thing. Half the reason is a lot of y'all really don't be feeling like Coach Prime is qualified. Half the y'all be saying the silent part out loud. See, you don't respect him really as a head coach like that of a Division I school, a Power 5 school. I don't know what made you come to that conclusion. You notice he called him Coach Prime too. Y'all be out of pocket kind of a little bit. He done told y'all how many times he want to be calling. Y'all keep just calling him something else.
They have more reasons than ever to evaluate every position honestly. For Shedeur Sanders, the situation may actually help accelerate his development. Competition tends to reveal who can be trusted when things get difficult. It reveals which players consistently execute under pressure. It reveals who is prepared to rise when expectations increase. Those are the types of answers every young quarterback needs. The biggest question moving forward is whether Jerry Jeudy can firmly establish himself as one of Shedeur's most trusted targets before others begin closing the gap. Because trust is everything in football. Once a quarterback starts developing confidence in certain receivers, those relationships become incredibly valuable. Targets increase, opportunities increase, roles become more secure. At the same time, if younger receivers continue making noise and capitalizing on their chances, the competition will only become more intense. Coaches love production. They love consistency. They love players who make difficult decisions impossible. The fastest way to earn playing time is to repeatedly show that you deserve it. One of the biggest mistakes NFL teams can make is assuming that young players are willing to wait their turn forever. That almost never happens. Every rookie enters the league believing he can play right now. Every young receiver believes he deserves targets. Every player fighting for a roster spot wants to prove he belongs on the field immediately. That mentality is exactly what is creating such an interesting situation inside the Browns' receiver room. For years, teams around the league have relied heavily on established veterans because experience feels safe. Coaches know what they are getting. Front offices know what those players have already accomplished. Fans recognize the names. But football has a funny way of changing expectations when young talent starts flashing in practice. Suddenly, potential becomes impossible to ignore. That appears to be exactly what is happening in Cleveland. The Browns have brought in younger receivers who are not interested in sitting quietly behind veterans and waiting for opportunities. They are attacking every practice like it might be the most important day of their careers.
Jerry Jeudy's not that guy. It's not a bad thing. He can get open. But can you do it all the time? And I need you at a 90% clip. He hasn't shown in his career. When he came out of Alabama, I 100% thought he was that guy.
Yeah.
But over the course of his career, he's shown he's not. Jerry Jeudy is talented, but they need a guy that it's one-on-one. I'm going to him. 87, 89%, 90% chance. That's a completion. They need a Jamar Chase. They need a Justin Jefferson. That's what they need. They need a Jackson Smith and Jigba. They need one of Nico Collins. They need one of those dudes where one-on-one, oh, I'm good. I'm throwing it to him.
They understand that every route matters. Every catch matters. Every rep matters. When players approach OTAs with that mindset, coaches notice very quickly. What makes this even more significant is the timing. The Browns are not entering a season where everything feels settled. There are questions throughout the offense. There are position battles developing. There is a quarterback situation that continues drawing attention. Most importantly, there is an opportunity for younger players to become part of the next chapter of this organization. That opportunity is creating urgency. Younger receivers know that if they build chemistry with Shedeur Sanders now, they could position themselves for bigger roles later. Quarterbacks naturally gravitate toward players they trust. They look for receivers who consistently finish plays. They look for players who are where they are supposed to be when they are supposed to be there. Those habits matter far more than reputation. As Shedeur continues gaining experience, he is learning which receivers make his job easier. Every quarterback does this. It is one of the most natural developments in football. Over time, trust becomes more valuable than almost anything else. A quarterback wants certainty. He wants confidence. He wants to know that when he delivers the football, the play has a strong chance of ending positively. That is why the competition among Cleveland's receivers is becoming so important. This is not simply a battle for catches. It is a battle for trust. It is a battle for future opportunities. It is a battle to become one of the players Shedeur Sanders feels comfortable relying on when games start counting. Meanwhile, veterans are discovering that younger players are making this competition far more difficult than expected. The newcomers are bringing energy every single day. They are bringing enthusiasm. They are bringing the type of hunger that often shows up when players feel they have something to prove. That combination can be dangerous for anyone who assumes their role is guaranteed.
This could be one of the funnest years for the Cleveland Browns. You know why? I was here when we rebuilt before. I was here when they had a young Nick Chubb and a young Myles Garrett and a young Denzel Ward and a young Baker Mayfield. Man, we went 1-31. But guess what? When Baker got in and broke the rookie record, we was ecstatic, because you know why? We had young dudes that we can look at that was doing something. And the Cleveland Browns don't need, for a successful season, they don't need to make the playoff to be a successful season this year. All they got to do is find some young dudes that's exciting, some young dudes that we can figure out at quarterback. And on top of that, if we find a franchise quarterback, we're good. I don't care what happened. We good. If our guys take next steps, we good. Now think about it. Think about the energy level that you got for a franchise quarterback, a young pass receiving tight end, a franchise type running back in Judkins, 2 receivers, and you might have especially if Jared Verse give you 10, 12 sacks. Mason Graham take the next step. You already got Schlesinger. And you found the coach in Todd Monken that overachieved by losing his best players. All of a sudden, and AB done had 2 great classes. All you need to do is give you 7 to 8 wins and find any of that. Bro, you out here cooking. You out here cooking. I'm just saying, the youth movement has started. Y'all could come around now or be late to the game later. I'm just letting y'all know. Coming up here next, Todd Monken again shuts down the chatter. He be getting y'all every single time. And how foolish do we be done? I respect Coach Prime. I respect. Man, my goodness. He's done a great job with Shedeur. All Shedeur has done is work. All he done is his work. Put that work in.
The reality is that football careers can change quickly. A player who enters camp as a projected contributor can suddenly find himself fighting to maintain his position. A player who was expected to stay near the bottom of the depth chart can force coaches to reconsider everything. These shifts happen every year across the NFL. Sometimes they start with one impressive practice. Sometimes they start with one strong connection between a quarterback and receiver. For Cleveland, that possibility feels more realistic than ever. The offense appears to be entering a period where production will matter more than status. Coaches want playmakers. They want consistency. They want players who repeatedly show up when opportunities are presented. Younger receivers understand that. They know they cannot control contracts or experience levels. What they can control is effort and execution. That mindset is exactly why the receiver room feels so competitive right now. Nobody is handing out opportunities based on past accomplishments. Every player is being evaluated. Every player is being watched. Every player is trying to prove that he deserves a larger role in the offense. And while much of the public attention remains focused on the quarterback competition, another story may be quietly unfolding behind the scenes. The young receivers are not acting like backup options. They are not behaving like players willing to accept limited roles. They are competing as if they fully expect to become major contributors. That attitude alone can completely reshape a depth chart. One thing that separates good quarterbacks from great quarterbacks is their ability to identify who they can trust. Arm talent matters, accuracy matters, decision-making matters. But at the end of the day, every quarterback eventually develops a circle of players he feels comfortable relying on when the pressure starts rising. That process may already be happening in Cleveland, and it could have major consequences for the Browns' offense moving forward. When fans watch a game, they often focus on the throw itself. They see the completion. They see the touchdown. They see the highlight. What they do not always see is the trust that was built long before that play ever happened. Trust is developed through hundreds of practice reps. It is developed through consistency. It is developed when a receiver repeatedly proves he will be exactly where he is supposed to be every single time. For a young quarterback like Shedeur Sanders, that process is especially important. Every practice is teaching him something. Every route is giving him information.
But the reality of that season is that 786 of his yards came during the 7-game stretch that he played with Jameis Winston. That was 64% of his production. When he was playing with Jameis Winston, Jerry Jeudy was averaging 112.3 yards per game. That's an elite number. But in the 10 games without Jameis Winston, just 44.3 yards per game. Weak and pedestrian. Out Jameis Winston, only 443 yards, only 1 touchdown, and 12 drop passes in those 10 games. So the bottom line is, outside of that 7-game stretch with Jameis Winston, Jerry Jeudy has yet to be a reliable or productive wide receiver for the Browns.
Every receiver is showing him whether they can be counted on when the ball comes their way. Quarterbacks remember those moments. They remember who finished the play. They remember who made a difficult catch. They remember who helped keep a drive alive when things were not perfect. That is why the competition among Cleveland's receivers carries so much weight. This is not simply about making the roster. This is not simply about winning a position battle. It is about becoming one of the players Shedeur naturally wants to throw to. Once that trust begins forming, it can become one of the most valuable relationships on the entire team. The challenge for veterans is that trust does not care about resumes. Trust does not care how long someone has been in the league. Trust does not care about previous seasons. It is earned through current performance. Every quarterback in NFL history has eventually favored the players who consistently helped him succeed. That pattern never changes. This is where the spotlight starts shifting towards some of Cleveland's younger receivers. They are approaching every opportunity like they have something to prove. They are running routes with urgency. They are competing for every football. Most importantly, they are trying to establish themselves as reliable options within the offense. Young players understand that if they can earn a quarterback's confidence early, they can dramatically change their future. At the same time, established veterans are facing a difficult reality. Expectations are higher for them. Coaches expect them to execute. Teammates expect them to lead. Fans expect them to produce. When those expectations are met, everything feels normal. But when younger players begin creating more excitement, comparisons become unavoidable. Jerry Jeudy finds himself in the middle of that situation. Nobody doubts his ability. Nobody questions the fact that he has the talent to be a productive receiver. The issue is that the Browns suddenly have several younger players competing for attention at the exact same time Shedeur Sanders is trying to establish himself. That combination naturally creates pressure. What makes the situation even more fascinating is that quarterbacks often reveal their preferences without saying a single word. They do it through repetitions. They do it through timing. They do it through who they look for when a play breaks down. Over time, patterns begin to emerge. Coaches notice them. Teammates notice them. Fans eventually notice them too. The Browns are still early in this process, but the signs are becoming difficult to ignore. There is increasing excitement around younger offensive players. There is growing curiosity about who will emerge as Shedeur's most trusted targets. There is also a sense that the offensive hierarchy may not be as locked in as many assumed entering the offseason. That possibility should excite Browns fans. Competition is healthy. Competition forces everyone to improve. It pushes veterans to perform at their highest level. It gives younger players a chance to earn meaningful roles. Most importantly, it helps identify which players can become part of the organization's future. For Shedeur Sanders, the goal remains simple. He wants players around him who can help move the offense forward. He wants teammates he can trust in critical moments. He wants receivers who consistently finish the opportunities he creates. Every quarterback wants the same thing. As OTAs continue and training camp gets closer, those relationships will only become more important. Some players will strengthen their connection with Shedeur, others may struggle to keep pace with the growing competition around them. That is simply the reality of life in the NFL. At some point, every NFL franchise reaches a moment where it has to make a difficult decision. Does it continue investing in players because of what they have done in the past, or does it start investing in players because of what they could become in the future? That question is beginning to feel very real in Cleveland, and the answer could shape the direction of the entire organization for years to come. For a long time, NFL teams have been obsessed with experience. It is easy to understand why. Veteran players have seen different situations. They understand the speed of the game. They know how to prepare. They know how to handle pressure. Coaches often trust that experience because it feels predictable. It feels safe. But there is also a downside to that approach. Sometimes teams become so focused on protecting established roles that they fail to recognize when younger players are ready for bigger opportunities. They become attached to names instead of production. They become attached to history instead of future potential. When that happens, organizations can end up delaying progress without even realizing it. That is why the Browns find themselves in such an interesting position right now. Across the roster, there are signs that younger players are beginning to demand attention. Not because coaches are forcing the issue, not because fans are creating hype, but because these players are showing up every day and making it harder to ignore their potential. At the center of all of this is Shedeur Sanders. Whether people want to admit it or not, young quarterbacks often accelerate change inside an organization. The moment a team begins considering a quarterback as part of its future, everything else starts getting evaluated through a different lens. Suddenly, the conversation becomes less about protecting veterans and more about building the best possible environment around that quarterback. That is exactly why the receiver competition matters so much. If Shedeur Sanders is going to continue developing, the Browns need to identify which players can grow alongside him. They need receivers who can build chemistry with him over multiple seasons. They need players who are hungry enough to improve every year. Most importantly, they need players who consistently capitalize on opportunities. This is where the conversation becomes uncomfortable for certain veterans. The NFL is not designed to reward players forever. Every season creates new competition. Every offseason brings new talent. Every practice becomes another evaluation. It does not matter how respected a player is. If younger options begin producing at a higher level, coaches are forced to take notice. Jerry Jeudy represents an interesting example of this reality. He remains one of the most recognizable names in the Browns receiver room. He has experience. He has talent. He has shown flashes throughout his career that remind everyone why he was such a highly regarded prospect. But the NFL is a results-driven business. Reputation can get a player opportunities, but only performance keeps those opportunities secure. Meanwhile, younger receivers are approaching this situation from a completely different perspective. They are not trying to protect a role. They are trying to earn one. That difference in mentality often creates some of the most intense competition inside a football team. Young players know they have nothing guaranteed. They understand that every catch, every route, and every practice rep can influence their future. That hunger is one of the most valuable qualities an organization can have. Teams that successfully transition from one era to another usually do it by identifying players who are still ascending. They find athletes who have not reached their ceiling yet. They invest in development rather than reputation. They focus on where a player is going instead of where he has already been. For Cleveland, that philosophy could become increasingly important as the season approaches. The Browns are trying to establish a new identity. They are trying to build something sustainable. They are trying to create an offense capable of competing for years rather than months. Accomplishing that goal may require difficult decisions regarding playing time, opportunities, and priorities. The reality is that football does not wait for anyone. Younger players improve, depth charts change, new leaders emerge. The teams that recognize those shifts early are often the teams that position themselves for long-term success. The teams that resist change sometimes find themselves falling behind. The Browns may not be ready to admit it publicly yet, but the signs are becoming harder and harder to ignore. This team appears to be approaching a crossroads. On one side are the familiar names, the veterans who have been expected to carry the offense. On the other side is a new wave of talent led by Shedeur Sanders, a quarterback who continues gaining attention every time he steps onto the field. And the more opportunities he gets, the more one question keeps coming back. Who is actually helping him move this offense forward? The reality is simple. Young quarterbacks need reliable weapons. They need receivers who capitalize on opportunities. They need teammates who make difficult plays look routine. As competition continues heating up across the roster, every player is being evaluated through that lens. Not based on reputation, not based on contracts, not based on what happened years ago, based on what they are doing right now. That is why the receiver battle may end up becoming one of the biggest stories of Cleveland's entire offseason. If younger playmakers continue earning trust, while veterans struggle to separate themselves, the Browns could find themselves making decisions that would have seemed unthinkable a few months ago. And if Shedeur Sanders continues building chemistry with the players who consistently show up when it matters most, the offensive hierarchy could look completely different by the time Week 1 arrives. One thing is certain, the competition is far from over. Training camp is coming, preseason games are coming, bigger opportunities are coming, and when those moments arrive, every player will have a chance to prove exactly where they belong in this offense. The players who take advantage of those opportunities will force the Browns to make some very difficult choices. But what do you think? Should the Browns fully commit to building around Shedeur Sanders and the younger playmakers, or should they continue trusting the veterans to lead the way? Is Jerry Jeudy still the clear answer at receiver, or is a new pecking order starting to form in Cleveland? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss the latest Browns and Shedeur Sanders news. And as always, thanks for watching.